Hey guys, I hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year's. I know we're getting a lot of what I assume to be New Year's resolution orders, where people are wanting to get rid of their man boobs and turn them into muscles. So I thought it would be fun if we went over a little bit about the basics of how muscles function, and more importantly, how they grow. I know everyone wants them to grow, but it's a bit mysterious how that actually happens. So let's see if we can shed a little light on that. So we'll start by taking a muscle, and this can be any muscle. I'm not going to make it a specific one. We'll draw two bones, two very poorly drawn bones. And in between them we'll have a muscle, okay? And the purpose of this muscle, when it contracts, is going to be to bring these two bones closer to one another, right? So if we were to take a cross-section of this muscle, draw some striations in here, looks something like this. You have these substructures that are called fascicles within it. And within each of these fascicles, you're going to have almost these little pepperoni pizza-like structures. It ends up looking like a pizza with pepperoni, I think. And each one of these pepperonis, these quote-unquote pepperonis, right, they're going to be known as your muscle fibers. So this is going to be a muscle fiber, and then within each one of these muscle fibers you're going to have substructures as well, okay, giving another pepperoni pizza type appearance to it, okay? And each one of these substructures, I'll draw one of them coming out, is going to be known as a myofibril. Myofibril. And the myofibrils are very interesting. So this is kind of the business end of the muscle, so we're going to explore that. Myofibril, okay? And they're composed of what are known as actin filaments. Okay, so these are actin filaments. And they're attached to what we call Z-discs. Okay? And in the center, here you're going to have another type of filament which is known as a myosin filament. And this myosin filament here is going to have certain structures attached to it that look almost like golf clubs a little bit, like some 9-irons, right? And the purpose of these quote-unquote 9-irons, when you give your muscle the signal to contract, they're going to reach up and grab the actin filament on both sides and on the top and the bottom here, and they're going to bring those actin filaments closer in together. Okay, so you notice you have a gap here. If the myosin starts doing its power stroke, that's what that's called, when these things jump up and grab onto the actin, it's going to draw the Z-discs in closer together. So let's draw a picture of this in its contracted state. Okay, so here you still have your actin filaments, here you have your Z-discs, but notice the space between the actin filaments. Here it's wide, here there's almost no space at all, and the reason for that is your myosin or rather all the little heads on the myosin have contracted to bring the actin filaments together. Okay, so it started off this wide, and then it went to that wide. It shrunk. Okay, your myosin fibers, and I'll go back to blue here, or your myofibrils, I should say, are composed of a series of these actin-myosin units. Draw one more. Okay, we'll draw our myofibril in the middle here. Okay, and each one of these units is known as a sarcomer. A sarcomer. Okay, so when you give your muscle the signal to contract, you're going to have the power stroke on the myosin heads that bring the actin filaments together that are attached to the Z-disc, which cause this to shrink, contract in other words, right? And if each one of these are shrinking, the entire myofibril ends up shrinking or contracting. If the myofibril contracts, and the myofibril is a constituent of the muscle fiber. That means the muscle fiber itself will contract. The muscle fiber is a constituent of all these fascicles. The fascicles contract, and then of course at the microscopic level, this is what causes the culmination of all these things together, working in unison, cause the muscle to contract, okay? And that's all a muscle contraction is. It's at the most basic level, it's these myosin heads delivering their power stroke, right? You give it the signal, they bring the actin filaments together, the Z discs come together, and that propagates all the way through to the visual level of our muscles contracting. All right, this is how it works in you, this is how it works in me, and also Mr. Olympia, okay? But Mr. Olympia has much bigger muscles than we do. He's become very effective at causing his muscles to grow. Now that's the next big question we want to address. How do muscles grow? And the answer to that question lays again right here within the myofibril and within these actin and myosin filaments. If we go back over here and explore this just a little bit, we'll see that it's actually not that complicated, okay? We can take this is a biological system, so it might be a little bit hard to visualize, so we can take a real-world example. Let's say you're pulling something and you don't have a rope available. Maybe you've got a washcloth. You're trying to pull something with a washcloth. If you put too much pressure on that washcloth, you can create some tears in it, right? And if you want to use it again for something, it's in a weakened state. So how would you fix it? You would take some material, you'd put some material on, you'd stitch it in, and you'd repair those weakened areas. Okay, what you'd be doing is essentially adding mass, the patch, to the cloth. Okay, and that's what's going to happen here with the myofibril. When we're working out, if we subject our muscles to too much of a demand, let's say either through a lot of weight or a high volume of repetition, we can create small microscopic tears within the myofibril. Okay? Now, we need to use our muscles on a continual basis, and the body knows that. So it detects these tears, and they're actually cells that live on the muscle fibers that are known as satellite cells. Satellite cells. They're going to detect this damage, and they're going to come in, and they're going to patch it up and repair it, okay? In addition to repairing some of the myofibrils that are damaged, it can also actually create brand new myofibrils. Now, the end result of these processes is going to be that you're going to have more or thicker myofibrils, and regardless which it is, or both of them, that's going to cause the actual muscle fiber itself to become thicker, the fascicles to become thicker, and then, end result, what we're all looking for, muscular growth, the actual muscle to become thicker. Okay? So it propagates through from the level of the myofibril all the way through to the level of the visual muscle. So, muscular growth, that's where it comes from. If you like this content, please go ahead and hit subscribe, and we'll try to keep delivering it to you in the future. Thanks for watching.